Good day, everyone. Meteorologist Mark Molnar here. How's everybody getting along? Well, we have the potential for the end of the week of looking at the 500 millibar flow here of the accumulating snow in parts of the interior mid-Atlantic and the Northeast. It's looking more certain. And next week, what is going on? Are we going to see some major East Coast snowstorms? Well, the pattern is there heading on into Friday the 16th. Look at that, heading on with a major potential winter storm. And as we start off here with a week that's going to be mostly rain, but there it is, Friday into Saturday across parts of the Northeast, we could be transitioning over to heavy wet snow in parts of interior upstate New York and Pennsylvania, and then eventually parts of New England. We'll get into all that scenarios and the potential for some major potential for East Coast snowstorms. Just how certain is this looking, and how big is this pattern going to feed into this potential? And will we see a major snowstorm heading towards December 16th? And here it is as we transition from a warm week of a ridge into a cold week, Monday, December 12th. Take a look at this. What exactly is the Euro hinting at here with respect to a major trough along the U.S. East Coast and major blocking up here in northeastern North America? Let's get into it. All right, so taking a look quickly at the 500 millibar flow pattern. Initially, you can see the trough out there developing in western North America. Take a look as we go in time. It really gives us a good idea at 500 millibars. There's less feedback issues and error at this level. But you can see this is by the end of the week. There's that trough in the Northeast really kicking across here. And as you can see, that's going to wind us up for an even bigger trough and more energy rounding the bend here. This is Wednesday, December 14th. So we start to get the possibility here of some major East Coast snowstorms beyond that. So let's get into that. All right, so let's take a look at the GFS. Yes, it is suffering from some feedback problems ever since the upgrade. It's just going crazy. But we can kind of get a sense, really, of what's going on here on the 500 millibar. Major ridge here as we continue through the rest of this week. That's given that we're going to see until the end of the week. There is that potential interior snowstorm along the U.S. East Coast. We're going to see how this plays out. The GFS even hinting that it's going to be more colder and snow just like the Euro and the Canadian. And take a look at that. Major trough there setting up next week, Tuesday, December 13th. And look how that propagates and retrogrades and reinforces. Look at that major blocking up there in northeastern North America. And as we set ourselves up here on the Euro, let's see what the similarities are. So taking a look at this, that ridge throughout the East Coast all week, trough in the west. Look at that. We're going to change the whole pattern here as we go. This is pretty interesting. A major trough out west as you're starting to get this major trough in the east. The Euro is a little bit further west here on the blocking, but nevertheless, this is Wednesday, December 14th. Still showing a major trough and a storm in the Northeast. I wanted to show you here on the Canadian. Look at this. Look at this. This is Wednesday, December 14th. Some of you in parts of the Deep South, you'd want to keep an eye on this because if this model verifies, this could be pulling cold air and snow deeper down into parts of the Carolinas. All right, we're going to start off here with precipitation outlook and transition into the Euro momentarily here because I'm putting a lot more stock into the Euro and the Canadian lately. Let's take a look here. Yeah, the GFS got an upgrade recently. It's been suffering from some feedback issues. But take a look here. Nevertheless, this gets us a pretty good pattern. Outlook event, Tuesday, we get a surge of moisture into the Northeast, so this will be an all rainfall event. You can see that kind of tapers off a little bit into Wednesday, and then before we get another surge to the south here into the Ohio River Valley. So you know what, Tuesday and Wednesday is going to be rainfall in the Northeast ending, and then we get another surge of moisture to the south. It's going to be this surge of moisture where we get a little bit more in the way of enhancement, a little bit more heavier precipitation. You can see more in the way of yellows here. Now watch what starts to happen. This is Friday at 10 a.m. Later in the day here, this is becoming more on board with the Euro, although the Euro is still a little tad farther to the south. I'll show you that momentarily. Here it is. Snowfall really starting to break out as cold air filters in across western New York here. So take a look at this. We're going to start seeing some secondary low pressure development along the U.S. East Coast. This is 1 a.m. Saturday. I actually think this cold air will be building a little bit farther south into upstate New York and Pennsylvania. So if you have travel plans into Saturday, please stay tuned. You don't have to cancel your trip just completely yet, but please, I'll have updates throughout the week to see. Look at this, Saturday at 1 p.m. Yeah, parts of the Catskills I think some of the Poconos here will continue to get some wet snow in the higher elevations. And look at how the cold air really intensifies. Saturday at 7 p.m., Binghamton, Syracuse, Rochester, Albany, Catskills, Poconos, you're going to get some heavy snow here. And this extends into Saturday. The GFS is extending this into a longer duration event than the Euro is. That's pretty interesting. We'll have to see if that holds true. But the Euro is pretty intent on accumulating snows in parts of Pennsylvania and upstate New York as well. And this continues into Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon at 1 p.m., 4 p.m. there. Look at that. Starting to switch over here in the Hudson Valley as colder air works its way in. Look at that. And then we start to taper it up and break it up Monday, just in time for your morning commute. That's good. But look at that. We're still continuing with snowfall here in western New York. And look at that. Let's just back that up. Yeah, that was a big old comma shaped here across the eastern part of the United States. So that is that system that'll be washing out as we go into the new week. What happens? Another piece of energy breaks down. Take this with a grain of salt. This is the GFS, folks. So we got another piece of energy, snow breaking out across parts of western Virginia here. That's interesting. And look how this kind of consolidates off the coastline, ramping up to what it looked like a couple days ago. If it does clip southeastern New England, that would be interesting. This is Wednesday, December 14th. Take this with a grain of salt because the Euro keeps this system off the coast, but the pattern is definitely there, the big blocking pattern in northeastern North America. And look at that. Yeah, that's pretty interesting. As we continue in time, there's that next system that we'll be watching potentially for the end of the week. All right, so here is the Euro surface map as we head throughout the week. It's pretty quiet with the exception for parts of the west here where we'll see snow in the higher elevations. Look at down south here. This is Tuesday, December 6th, we might see some stronger thunderstorms again in parts of Mississippi, Alabama, and parts of Georgia here. But, as we continue in time, we see that surge of warm air. We have that big old ridge across the east, and that continues. Take a look at that. That's Friday at December 9th here. Take a look at this. Low pressure moving up the Ohio River Valley here. Snow in parts of Chicagoland here. Take a look at this as we continue in time. That kind of moves. See how this pinwheels? The timing on this is going to be interesting because this snow across parts of central Pennsylvania here on the Euro, this is going to be interesting because this could end up being a little bit bigger than we thought here than the GFS is indicating. The Euro is a bit further south here than the GFS, and that brings the colder air into parts of Pennsylvania. This is something we're going to have to really keep an eye on as we go in time here. And this low pressure is so blocked up here from high pressure to the further to the north here that this low actually has to go more southeast to kind of move off of the coastline here. So that is really interesting. And then we get this second system December 11th here. The Euro brings that system up here through parts of the lakes. And then look at the energy down here into the south. Can it make it up the coastline to actually combine forces and phase with this low pressure system on the Euro? Well, there's hints that that's happening. The Euro doesn't have it all together there. You see the energy holding back into parts of the Appalachians, low pressure forming along the east coast. But as of right now, the Euro's kind of hinting a little bit further to the east. Let's back that up one frame. 985 millibars. This is Wednesday, December 14th. So the Euro evolution of this is much slower and it's further east. So this is something we definitely have to keep an eye on here. This could definitely, be something to watch as we go in time. All right, so taking the Euro here throughout the week in the northeast there, you can see through Wednesday the rainfall. But watch this system as it comes out of the Ohio Valley. Here it is. This is Saturday or late Friday night here, just before midnight. You can see snow breaking out. I think this area will expand across this part of upstate New York and Pennsylvania as we go in time. You see how the Euro just kind of clips it off the screen. But I think in time, a compromise between the GFS Euro and the Canadian kind of has this area and the potential for snowfall now. Probably not so much towards the coastline here, but, just slightly inland, west of the I-95 corridor, so to speak. All right, so I wanted to show you the Canadian too. It is similar this week, the warm week, all that rain moving up into parts of the northeast. Now, the Canadian is very similar to the Euro on our Friday into Saturday system. Look what happens. Let me just back this up just a few frames. There it is. That is later Friday night into Saturday. Look at the snow across northern Ohio, parts of central Pennsylvania. We could see accumulating snow here according to both the Euro and the Canadian. GFS is a lot further north and warmer. Look at this. Coastal low forming here, parts of Pennsylvania, accumulating snow. Look at that system sliding off to the southeast, very similar to the Euro. Now, this is where things really diverge. Look at the Canadian here, bringing rain all the way up into parts of the northeast Tuesday. This is definitely diverging from our other models here. And then secondary low development, this is what I meant for the southeast. Look at this. We could be looking at an area of snow all the way down to North Georgia and parts of the Carolinas for Wednesday, December 14th. Wow, look at this. If the Canadian verifies, look at this. This is a pretty massive expanse here. That's our last frame. That is tremendous snow there just west of the I-95 corridor. Something we really need to keep our eyes on here. All right, so take a look at the GFS service map. Take this with a grain of salt because there's been a lot of feedback problems lately on the GFS since its upgrade or downgrade, whatever you want to call it. But look at that. Yeah, rainfall across the northeast for your Tuesday and Wednesday, as I was showing you on the precipitation outlook over frame. High pressure building along the east coast. It surges that warm air initially northward, but you know what? There's that Ohio Valley low. Yeah, you're going to see rain initially here into the northeast, but watch this. The GFS is coming more on board with what I think is going to be a snow solution across parts of upstate New York into Pennsylvania. There's that 992 millibar low, so we'll get some accumulating snows inland. I think the GFS isn't showing the whole extent of it like the Euro and the Canadian is, but there it is. You know, that's heading on into Saturday. Parts of the northeast, definitely some accumulating snow into interior parts of New York and Pennsylvania, so looking like a winter wonderland. That is actually going to extend a trough of low pressure you can see on the GFS into Sunday, and that prolongs a period of snowfall and storminess. Now, the GFS is backed off on its massive explosive development, but there's another development Wednesday, the 14th. It's looking a little bit more like the GFS, although it's taking it a little bit farther westward into New England. Here you can see accumulating snow potential Thursday. So, you know what? Take this with a grain of salt, but the pattern is there. Look at that. Friday the 16th. If that verifies, that would be a major East Coast snowstorm there. Look at that. But that's pretty far out. All right, so, you know, this is more eye candy than anything. Snowfall map takes us through the end of the week. There's that bullseye. This is the Canadian, by the way. There's central and western Pennsylvania. That bullseye of, 6-8-inch totals there. Take that with a grain of salt. You know, we still have to have more model runs come in. Things could really change. The Canadian is waiting. It's slow like the Euro. Look at that. Wednesday, December 14th. It doesn't start to have that interior snowstorm form until by this point. Now, let's take a look at the Euro high resolution here. So let's take a look here as we go through. There it is. So this is backing off a little bit from the Canadian. 2 to 4 inch advisory criteria snowfall event for Friday into Saturday. Now, look what happens in the Monday here, Tuesday. The Euro is not, we can't go further out on the Euro, but the Euro is holding back a little bit like the Canadian is. So the Canadian's indicating this is, the start of the 14th, that we're going to start getting snow cranking the 14th into the 15th across parts of the Northeast. All right, so GFS snowfall totals, this is essentially just for eye candy. There it is. It's coming a little bit more in line with the Euro now across the Northeast. Look at out west, though. Yeah, you're getting an explosion of snowfall here. Let's actually zoom into the Northeast here, and we'll take it through the end of the week. That Friday into Saturday storm. So there it is, Friday, Saturday morning, western New York, north central Pennsylvania, parts of the Catskills, parts of the Hudson Valley. Look at that into Monday there. And Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So, yeah, let's back that up. There's Friday the 16th. So the GFS is delaying the strongest part of the storm till the end of the following week, which is pretty far out. We got time to watch that. So as we get into total QPF totals here, precipitation, this is liquid. Take a look at this. So this takes us through, let's go through the end of the week here. So initially that shot across the southeast into the northeast, you're averaging a quarter to half an inch, and then look at that. Some of those darker purples, you're getting into 1 to 2 inch range, and then parts of southern Kentucky there, you're getting up 3.5, 4 inches. So yeah, that's with our first system. Heading on to Thursday and Friday, look at, we get another surge of moisture up into parts of the Northeast or Saturday there, and look at that, we get another surge. So yeah, we're looking at a lot of rainfall down and through the Mississippi and Tennessee river valleys here, averaging about 3 to 5 inches throughout the entire. Look what's going on out west here. Yeah, you're going to get some pretty stormy conditions out here as well. 5-6 inch liquid equivalent. These mountains are going to be getting massive snowfall accumulations. But look at back east here into the Northeast. Most of this throughout the week falls as liquid until we get into that following week. Take a look at this. So the Euro backs off a little bit into the Northeast for that week on the storminess totals. Now let's take a look at the Canadian here on precipitation totals. So you get that shot there. It looks very similar to the Euro initially here. So through the first part of the week into middle week, 1 to 2 inches here into parts of New England, 3 to 4 here in the Tennessee River Valley. Look at that. That's a little bit crazy. But you definitely are getting quite a bit of rain now. That is a little bit troubling into parts of the Mississippi River Valley. That's getting up onto the 4 to 6 inch range. Now look at that. Widespread, 2 to 3 inches here into parts of Pennsylvania, parts of New England. This is through Monday, December 12th. And watch interior New York and Pennsylvania there. That's where you start to see a lot of this become a liquid equivalent up here. Now look at there, southern New England. That's getting up into the range that the GFS was talking about. Not quite there, though. Not quite overdone. So it's possible that the Canadian, there it is. This is through Saturday. So the Canadian is backed off a little bit as opposed to the GFS, which is, more in line with what I'm thinking. But here it is, widespread totals here across parts of Pennsylvania, Ohio into the 2 to 3 inch range. Heavier totals as we get some of those moisture surges coming out of the Atlantic here. And then inland, a lot of this beyond next weekend falls as snowfall into parts of interior New York and Pennsylvania, according to a lot of the models. And for your tropical update here for your Atlantic, especially Caribbean viewers, and then the Western Pacific here, take a look at this. It's looking pretty clear as a bell. Don't really have anything to talk about this time of year. This is the quiet season, of course. The season is pretty much wound to an end. You get these tropical waves out here in the intertropical convergence zone this time of year, but nothing, is going to develop. We got some showers, progressing their way here across parts of the Caribbean Thursday, December 8th here. But you see, on a northeast flow, things are pretty quiet this time of year. Not many frontal boundaries making it this far south until you get to about Tuesday, December 13th. A little bit, of a push here. The big fanfare is going to be up along the U.S. East Coast here. But look at that. Tropics, yeah, they're pretty much non-existent. Looking pretty clear. Tropics in the Western Pacific, the season never really truly dies, but it gets pretty quiet later in December, January, and early February. So essentially what you have here across the Philippines, we have a tropical wave moving through the central Philippines here. So you're going to get some gusty winds and rain showers here. Here is that big old frontal boundary up across parts of southern China, stretching just north of Taiwan here, and then just around Japan. So as we go in time here, let's see if there's any chance of any tropical development. Well, that wave pretty much falls apart through the Philippines. This is Wednesday, December 7th, so looking pretty clear. Then we have another wave that moves through the central Philippines at this time. Some showers up towards Taiwan and parts of Vietnam here as well. Now, you look at out here in the intertropical convergence zone east of the Philippines, it's looking pretty active. But, as we go in time here, it doesn't look like any of this really develops into anything until we get to about Thursday, December 8th. We start to see this system here east of the Philippines start to look a little bit more pronounced. Not to say this is going to become any name storm, but it definitely looks pretty formidable. And the one behind it is a little concerning as well. So, as we stretch through mid-December here, Vietnam's looking pretty dry. We might have some activity over here into parts of the Indian Ocean. But look at this. East of the Philippines, definitely want to keep an eye on this because we might have some sort of tropical depression, maybe a tropical storm here in the central Philippines. This is Saturday, December 10th. Not looking at anything typhoon related, at least here into the short to medium term. But look how things get pretty active. That wave east of the Philippines here by December 11th gets a little weaker, and that's great news here. You can see up here towards Taiwan and Japan, that is a frontal boundary. And then we have something just south here of Vietnam that we're going to keep our eyes on as well. So let's continue to put this into motion, see if we have anything to look forward to medium to long-term range. You can see we have a wave here northeast of the Philippines by Monday, December 12th. That kind of pivots towards the northern Philippines, but you start to see it starts to get caught up in the westerlies here and starts to get sheared off to the northeast, which is great news. This time of year, you can get frontal boundaries that approach just on the north side of the Philippines. You see all those waves getting entrenched up into the northwesterly or northeasterly flow here. And take a look at that. It gets pretty quiet here towards Tuesday, December 20th. Intertropical convergence zone is kind of consolidating here a little bit further south. So we'll keep an eye on it here. And here we go, Jim, from Fisher's Island, New York, this past Friday, December 1st. The wind was blasting around out here. You can actually hear the wind. Look at those waves crashing there on the shoreline as getting out there and enjoying. Nice sky. It actually felt colder than it was across much of the Northeast because of that wind. And as we take a look here, take a look at this. Beautiful blue skies. Yeah, it looked pretty warm, but that wind made it feel a bit cooler. Nice captures there, Jim, from Fisher's Island, New York. Windy day this past Friday. And Jim sending in from Groton, Connecticut here on Sunday, December 4th. Take a look at this. A beautiful sunset across Groton, Connecticut here. You can see all those beautiful orange, pinks, reds, yellows all in the background. And you can see it slowly dim. You can see how the nice time lapse, the clouds coming towards the camera here. Nice capture. You can see how dim it is getting there. And continuing here from Sunday, December 4th, Groton, Connecticut, Jim sending in this beautiful, look at that sunset. Cirrus clouds here. Beautiful sight. Look at that. Just a beautiful day to get out there and enjoy. And there is that beautiful sunset reflecting off the water. Look at all that pinkish reds and yellows. Nice captures there, Jim. And taking a look, John, here from Babylon, New York. Sunset this past Friday, December 2nd. Take a look at that. He's cruising out on the open road. And a nice, beautiful, you can see that orangish tint. Very nice capture there, John. All right, so we're going to take a look at temperatures here. We have Monday. We have this big Arctic surge up here in the plains. But look how warm things are getting in the east here. That is going to be the pattern this week. Much different from the following week. This cold air is going to eventually make its way east, but look at this. 40s and 50s for the northeast as we get that surge with those warmer temperatures and rainfall. Look at this. Well into the 50s across the northeast. That colder air stays bottled up over the northern plains. You can see moderating a little bit. Still that 40 to 50 degree line still up here into parts of the northeast into Thursday and Friday. Here is Friday. So we get a little bit of a cool down, upper 30s into northern New England here, but you know what? As we head throughout the week, temperatures are remaining above average. And here's the extended outlook from our hometown viewers, Binghamton to Scranton's Upper Susquehanna River Valley. Take a look at this. Monday through Friday, we are looking sunny Monday, but there's where things go downhill. The temperatures will be well above average. Look at that, heading up to the mid to upper 50s by Wednesday. We will have a frontal boundary that will be moving through the area. Rainfall maybe up to a quarter to a half an inch both days. Look at that, Tuesday into Wednesday. Thursday, slight clearing, but mostly clouds. Thanks for joining me for this edition of BD Marks Weather Northeastern. Don't forget, link is in the description down below for my winter outlook for this winter season. And also, things get wintry. You want to buy me a coffee? Tip jar also down below. You can find it down there. Also, Facebook, Media Mark. Also, Weather Northeastern. Also, Hurricane Northeastern. Also, Twitter at Weather Eastern. And don't forget, MediaMark.com, WeatherNortheastern.com. Thanks for joining me.